on the screen, you might as well look at the meeting host section.
I didn't get that, but I'm going to begin. So welcome everyone to the Kubeflow Pipelines community meeting. Today's date is December 4th, 2024. This meeting is governed by the CNCF Code of Conduct. The meeting is recorded and will be uploaded to the Kubeflow YouTube account after the meeting is done. So as usual, we'll start if there's any folks here that are new and would like to introduce themselves. We try to give some space for folks to do that. So is there anybody in the call that would like to introduce themselves? All right, cool. Let's keep going. So I have some notices. So one is that there is an update to the OKdo test. I know that this has been somewhat of a hindrance for a lot of folks that are especially not members of the Kubeflow org. We added a GitHub action that allows members to approve it for everybody so that I don't have to keep manually approving it. So hopefully that takes out some bottlenecks there. We still have a OKdo test label, which I think we'll probably want to just get rid of because now it's not really doing anything. I think it might still be being used for any remaining prow actions, but I don't think we have that many.
No problem.
There is going to be no Kubeflow pipeline meetings. The next one is on the 1st. So obviously that's New Year's. So we are not going to have that one. I am also going to be on PTO for the next one. So I'm going to try to see if I can get Chen or James to host it. If not, then I'll just drop in for the call and host it. So, but we'll still hold that meeting. I expect probably not a lot of activity there, but I think we should still have it. Yeah, we'll just go with what's on the agenda then. The Tecton backend removal notice. So I put this up this morning. This one goes, I think 2 meetings back where we talked about this. Might have been in the last one. I can't remember. But if you all recall, I've linked the recording as well where we discussed this in the previous call. But this is about the feature of the KFP Tecton backend. In the call, we discussed that we will provide a 1-month notice and try to get a call to action from the community of whether there are users for this part of the code base that is being used, whether this feature is being leveraged, and whether they would like to provide a commitment to support said feature, since we just simply do not have the bandwidth with the current contributors to be able to support this, and is adding a lot of tech debt. So that's up. I'll throw a Slack comment as well after the call for this. Feel free to share it. And if you are watching this call or in this call and you would like to volunteer, then you can leave a comment here or join the KFP call or send me a DM or Slack message. Either works. Awesome. I was hoping Chen would be in this call, but I'm trying to reach out to him to get a 2.11 SDK release out. We have met our milestone for it. Well, technically, there was one issue that we didn't get done in time within the month, so I punted it for the next one. Otherwise, everything else has been merged in. So I'll be poking Chen to get a release for that out the door. And keep an eye out for the next SDK release, which is not happening at the end of this month. It's the holidays. I've set the target for that to be the end of January. So anything else that anyone wants to get in for SDK, we can add that to this milestone. And I'll go ahead and create a 2.13 one as well. Any questions regarding that? SDK 2.11. There is a issue that was fixed that all had, so we have some more lingering breaking API changes that came from 2.10 release. Ricardo has put in a PR for it and has been merged. That will go out for 2.11, but I think that we should also do another patch release for 2.10. This will prevent you from setting CPU limits, resources, and memory limits resources via the tasks. So that is, I think, this issue. It's one of these issues. Yeah, it's this one. Well, this is the PR, but yeah, you can trace it to the issue. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get much traction on this if we don't have the other maintainers present. So I'll push this to a future agenda item, and then we can move on to Ricardo's point.
Thanks, Mer. So just some updates on the TTL. One of the things we've been discussing in the last meeting is that the need of a design doc to follow up on all the possible alternatives to implement the database cleanup task on the limited database cleanup for the TTL feature. So with that, I would like to just summarize the sections in this document that we've been discussing about the difference between pipeline level versus component level DTL, which we decided that this is more practical and more reliable, more conformance with the Argo implementation to use to implement TTL at a pipeline level. And the TTL, the database cleanup task, it's one of the most discussing topics that we made so far, because we had a lot of discussions about where to do this, how to do this. And to summarize, we pointed out 3 different ideas to implement database cleanup. One is to reuse the persistence agent logic to that since it watches all of the updates on the workflow CRs, it's naturally feasible to implement database deletion in the persistence agent, which I still believe that this is the best solution so far, because that's why persistence agent exists in the KFP architecture. But all the other solutions would be having a different loop in any of the components. Well, one of the suggestions were the API server to have this internal loop to watch for any database rows that it's already TTL, and then it cleans up. The biggest problem with that solution is that we end up on a weird state when the workflow CR got TTL, but the database record is still there, because there are different loops there. It's impossible to sync up those loops for any pipeline and between Argo and the KFP API server. One other solution that we found out is that it's possible to also implement something like a TTL statement directly in the database using a MySQL special SQL statement. But again, this is database specific, and if the plan is to have support to other databases, this might be a problem to provide the same TTL feature in multiple databases. So that's pretty much the summary of this design doc. And again, I still believe that the best approach will be to reuse the persistency agent code and implement database cleanup in there, because database cleanup goes instantly when the workflow CR got TTL'd. And one last topic about this, I'd like to address Greg's concern in last meeting about what happened if the persistency agent goes down, what happened with the database cleanup task. Well, turns out that I realized that persistence agent has a critical issue. If the persistence agent goes down, you lose any database updates for your current workflow to all of your pipeline runs. So there is a bug in persistence agent that the queue is not persistent. So if it goes down, you lose track of all of the updates. But I also stated in the document that this is outside the scope of this TTL design doc, and we need to create a follow-up issue to address this specific issue. But I still believe that persistency agent is present in the architecture to watch for all of the workflow and schedule workflow CRs and update the database accordingly. So we should reuse this code to implement the database cleanup inside persistency agent. This is just my conclusion in the design doc, but I welcome any feedback on this design doc or this decision. And I also welcome for any other options that I might miss during my research and writing this design doc.
Awesome.
Yes,
Alex?
Yeah, hey. So we just had a user because this problem is kind of compounded by the fact that the custom resources are necessary to access the logs, since the logs are not stored as output artifacts. So there's kind of like an intersection between like that problem domain that we've been working on and this one. But I think there's a common scenario where you want your workflow custom resources to be garbage collected, but you want to preserve the run information in the database. Um, like on some level, like so much of what KFP is doing is taking stuff that's stored ephemerally in etcd and persisting it. And I think that if we couple the persistence of the run information in the database to the persistence of the workflow custom resources, then we're kind of eroding that functionality. And like a common scenario that like users might run into issues here is like if they want to recreate a run from like 10 months ago or something, or even 3 months ago. If the information is deleted from the database, then you've lost your ability to kind of validate or recreate a run that happened historically.
I think the complexity is, I think, so you're saying that like, in this case, you would want it to be, we clean up the workflows, but we persist the run metadata in the database, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, this was my initial thinking as well. I think it was it Chen or Greg? I don't remember who, but I think there was confusion about like if we provide a set TTL option for a pipeline, and then and so we're doing something like this at a pipeline level, and the run executes, and we only clean up the underlying workflow resource. That becomes something that's very backend, underlying backend engine specific, and it might be confusing to users who might be expecting the run to be deleted, which is, I guess, a more like front concept that is, and all that information regarding it is stored in the database. I think that was the rationale behind this. Ricardo, do you have more context there?
yeah. I I have the same I have the same argument when we initially discussed that, but um I don't see a problem if we just parameterize this, like if the user wants to keep the database records, we just add a parameter to keep the database records. I believe what we need to know is what is the default behavior we expect for KIP. Should we preserve or not by default those records, and then just create a parameter for it. But yeah, I had the same rationale when we initially discussed that. My understanding is that people don't want to keep track of the Kubernetes objects because it just overload the etcd, and that's the biggest issue so far. But it's not a problem to store historical data about the pipeline runs, right? Because that's why the database is present in KFP architecture to preserve the historic data about these pipeline runs.
Yep.
Anyways, I'm up to create a parameter or not for the TTL. My understanding is that we should have it. Um, Maybe what we need to decide is what is the default behavior for KIP to start, or not start that historic data by default.
KFP has a concept of archiving. I'm wondering if that can be like leveraged here. Maybe this could, when you talked about like parameterizing it, maybe, and feel free to shoot this down. I'm thinking, what if like the default was to archive it and clean up the workflow? That way you preserve the ability to restore the run. And then you can optionally have it deleted, which would then also delete it from the database. I don't remember exactly how archiving works. I don't, but this is something that we could do that might reconcile the two differences. What do we think about that? We don't have to discuss it here. I know this document is like very hefty and long. I think it's very like, first of all, like great job, Ricardo, in looking into this and writing this up. I think that we should definitely give like the community an opportunity to take a look at it, read it, provide suggestions and alternatives if something doesn't work. And what do we think about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's still room for discuss about this. By the way, I am sharing this document for everyone with commenters' permission. So Alex, feel free to add any comments if you believe there's missing data about those options. And also make sure to add your use case as well so we can think about options here.
I think this was the thread in which we discussed about the pipeline.
Yep.
All is kind of misleading. Yeah. So this is the comment, by the way, if Alex, you're interested in, like my thought was basically, well, what you were thinking initially too. It's actually much easier to implement as well if we're just doing it. We're just leveraging Argo's like TDL feature and setting that and like just done with it. But yeah, so that's the context around where the confusion lied. If you want to kind of read up on it, and everybody, please feel welcome to like take a look at this dog and provide your feedback, and then we can revisit this next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Sound good?
Yep, works for me.
Awesome. Cool. Let's move on. I've made a proposal, kind of related to what we just talked about, but I made a proposal for making proposals for architecture decisions, or rather, when we make architectural decisions in general, right? We do this in our downstream as well, and it's been pretty successful. We find this very useful and a more appropriate way to archive major architectural decisions that affect the entire system. I personally think that historically it's been hard to trace why certain decisions have been made in Kubeflow pipelines, and having something like this would have made that a lot easier. And I'm off the top of my head, I'm thinking about things like intermediate representation, some decisions around V2 and what have you. And it's kind of really hard to understand like what was the thought process of folks like 5 years ago, for example, right? Maybe they had a really good reason for doing it or a bad reason. So that's architectural decision records try to like solve that problem. And the intent here is to provide a template. So in this PR, you'll find a template that you can base your architectural decision on. And there's a whole process of like, okay, well, we take a look at it. Those who review it and approve it, they provide their sign-offs, and the author can then update it and what have you. I provided an example of a first architectural decision record, which is about adding architectural decision records. So take a look, and I would love to get community's thoughts on this. And it would be great if you can turn whatever we decide with the TTL thing into an ADR as well. And Alex, I'm thinking maybe something like the logs thing that could be like an ADR, and just similar like high level kind of decisions that we're making and what are our rationale behind it. The intent here is not for it to be a technical, like super implementation detail and technical heavy. If we need that, those should be supplementary docs and we link them into the ADR. The ADR is mostly about tracking decisions and traceability of set decisions. So I provided links. Please feel free to look at it. If you have questions about this, if you have a better alternative, please propose it. And yeah, any questions around that?
Not a question, just a comment. I think it's a great idea. And there's like large chunks of code where I'm like, I wish there was an ADR for this.
Yeah, I find myself thinking that a lot. So, yeah, cool. Ricardo, you've essentially functioned your document as an ADR. There's some technical implementation details. Personally, I'm not like too nitpicky about that, but you've stated everything in a what, why, and what our goals are, and alternatives and so on, which is very ADR-y, right? So I would love to see an ADR as well once we kind of like a bit more conclusive on the direction we want to head. I encourage you for that. The last week we had a discussion about the architecture. Not last week, last meeting we had a discussion about the architecture stuff, right? We had some folks from IBM who wanted to support different architectures. That could also be an ADR. So cool. Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of punting this. It'd be nice to have the other maintainers present for this one as well. So I'll punt this for next week. It's not super critical. That's all I had. Anybody else? We have some time left. Anybody else have any topics that they would like to discuss? All right, cool. Well, then we can end early. Thanks everyone for joining, and yeah, see you next time.
Someone just commented that they had something to say.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Go for it, Madi.
Hello, everyone. I joined the meeting really late, but I have a question. I don't know if it's the right place to ask it or not. I'm a student, a master student in Austria, and I want to know if you are an organization for the GSAC for the 2025.
That's the Google Summer
of code.
of
Yeah, Google Summer of Code. Mari, can you send me a private message? Are you on the CNCF Slack?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Reach out to me. I know that who ran the Google Summer of Code for 2024. I can reach out to him to see if there are plans to do the same for 2025, and I'll let you know.
Perfect. Could you write me your username, or how can I find you? Should I just look up for Ricardo?
Look for, yeah, Ricardo Martinelli de Oliveira. I'm in all of the available Kubeflow channels in CNCF.
I will try to find you. Thank you very much.
You'll see him commenting also in the pipelines channel if you know where that is. Ricardo, if there's, I haven't been up to date with this. If you feel that like we as in like Kubeflow is missing some sort of notice or whatever, so that like because you know like it's hopefully it should be a bit more visible if like folks have to come asking in the community call, maybe we're kind of missing something there. So I don't know, maybe you want to follow up on that.
Yeah, usually we have someone that represents the whole Kubeflow community for that. So what we need to know is maybe we should think of potential projects that we could register for the GSOC. So maybe it could be a follow-up discussion in upcoming meetings.
Yeah. Do we know what the timelines are? Has it already begun?
Yeah, it depends of the size of the project. You can have like small project that takes up to 5 months, I guess.
90
And
hours?
somewhat, yeah, and others that takes 9 months.
And is this something that has already begun, or is this going to start soon?
From your side, you need to first apply as an organization. But from me as a student, I will start applying in the March.
Yeah, there are phases for that. What we need to know is if the GSOC 2025 applications already started, and then we need to reach out to who ran the 2024 edition to see if we have plans for the next year.
KF would need to apply as an organization. So that's Kubeflow, I guess, would need to apply, right? And Kubeflow would need to reach out
That's right.
to the different components. Kubeflow would reach out to The different components. Okay, Ricardo, if you can follow up on this, that'd be fantastic. And just like let us know how we can support the students. So,
Yeah, sure.
and
Thank you very much.
no worries. Thanks for bringing this up.
worries.
Really appreciate it. I saw somebody was also they left a question on the Kubeflow discuss. I don't know if that was you or somebody else, but yeah, so it kind of feels like to me we're missing some sort of communication there. But thank you, Ricardo, for volunteering to follow up. Awesome. Anything else? Great. Well, then, yeah, see you guys all next time or in Slack. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks, Samir. Bye.